Today's episode, I will discuss the choice between being an independent escort and an agency escort, or working with an agency. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been having a lot of escorts contact me and ask me a lot of questions. Now, legally speaking, I have to be very careful because I don't want to come across like I'm promoting prostitution in this country because it is still illegal, which we are working on starting the conversation about legalization and decriminalization through all the other things I'm doing for that cause. So, and I'm also in the process of writing my book, which I actually have written while I was inside. And as you can see, it's all written in pencil because at the time I did not have access to, of course, a computer or even pens. So it's a little bit of a long process to transfer the written word to an e-version for the book and an audio, of course, at the end. But I should have this book published hopefully by the end of this month. So I used to have a lot of escorts in Las Vegas when I worked in Las Vegas. They would come to me and ask me if it is okay to work with me. And I would always tell them that there's a big difference between being independent and working with an agency. Now, for me, it was a lot different because I operated differently than any other agency I've ever heard of or associated with or talked with the owners about. The difference was that I actually really cared about what I did and how I did it. I actually cared about both my clients and my escorts. I tried my best to keep everything on the up and up. I don't like lying. I did not like to lie to my clients or to my escorts. So I kept it, basically you can call it like the honest agency. So when I used to interview girls to become escorts in Las Vegas, sometimes I would have these women that would ask for my split, and I used to tell them it's a 50-50 split, unless they had a lot of credentials like a Penthouse Pet or a Playboy Playmate or a Hustler magazine model or a Victoria's Secret model. In that case, if I felt that their reputation is going to make it a lot easier for me to book them with clients and make them that big money, then I usually gave them the 60-40 split their way. So they kept 60% of the proceeds and I kept 40%. And the ones that were new or they worked with other agencies or they just didn't know what the hell they're doing, they would always, some of them, I would say about one or two out of every 100 that interviewed for a job. This is in Las Vegas. And they already had experience before, or they very little experience, or they experienced with other agencies. And they would tell me, well, that's a little bit too much. It was too much of a split. So I would respectfully ask them at that point, well, how much are you making now? And most of them would tell me if they had a regular job, like $2,000, $3,000 a month, or $4,000 a month, whatever it is. And so I would then tell them, well, would you rather have 100% of what you're making now? Or would you rather have 50% of 50 or 60 grand a month? So you're making this much right now. Do you want to keep 100% of that? Or do you want to keep 50% of this, which is 10x or 15x or 20x of what you're making right now? So it's really simple math, right? It's very logical. And quite frankly, the ones that actually focus so much on the split and that I had to go overcome that objection with them, which I could, which is my experience. You're coming in with no investment. I'm paying for everything. I'm doing all the advertising, the promotions, the marketing, your website, your pictures, your videos, your screening. I mean, you're coming with zero or very little experience, even the experienced ones. I mean, I worked. It's not like, I just hired people and went to the golf course, or I traveled all over the world and didn't pay attention. No, I worked. In fact, I worked really hard, especially in Orange County. So those ones really, they eventually aced themselves out if I even hired them, or I never hired them at all, because I don't like people that come in and they minimize the importance of what you bring to the table, which in this case was many years of experience and knowledge. And after all, and I used to say this all the time, is, and I really believe in this now and before, safety is always number one. So what price can you put on your own safety? You know? So that was one part. Now there's an advantage and disadvantage to everything in life. If you can find someone that you can work with that are experienced, well established, have a lot of clients, and they can get you that $2,000 or $3,000 a day right off the gate, right from first day, like I did, then it's not a bad gig. Especially if you're trying to learn the business and eventually want to go on your own. If that's your aspiration, that's your motivation, then that's a good way to start. I mean, you always want to start somewhere, whether it's education, you want to get school. That's why we all go to school and college and all this stuff. Or you want to intern somewhere to learn the business, the in and out of the business. So that's really smart to be able to attack that learning curve and learn by example and experience. Hey, listen, you can watch all YouTube videos you want. You can Google all you want. Nothing replaces real life experience. The advantage of being an independent is huge. However, from my experience, not everybody can be in business for themselves. Just like any other business, this is no different. You have to be motivated. You have to have enough intelligence to be able to comprehend and run the business. You have to have some transferable skills. You have to be organized. You have to know a little bit about, marketing, customer service, advertising, promotion, writing, communication is very important, how to listen to the client. And the other things that is field specific, in other words, how to screen the client for law enforcement, for psychos, for stalkers, for people that want to rob you, for guerrilla pimps that want to take you and make you work for them. All these different things that you have to learn how to do. And I got to tell you, the biggest challenge of being an independent escort is that not only do you have to wear all these different hats, and I wore all these hats as an agent because I was every single escort behind the scene, but you also have to have enough energy and discipline to be able to still put a smile on your face after having a rough day on the phone or texts or emails with, quite frankly, people that are just very disrespectful and they just want to waste your time, or they want to masturbate or whatever when they call you. So it's very difficult and challenging to go through 50, 60, 70 calls or whatever calls you get as an independent in a 2 or 3 hour period when you're working, and to be able to screen the clients. And by the time you get the 10th idiot that puts you in a bad mood, it's very hard to see the client an hour later and keep that smile on your face, because you get mentally, physically, emotionally, and psychologically exhausted. There's a lot of these people are what I call energy vampires. They just want to suck the energy life out of you. So by the time you actually are talking to a real client or meeting with a real client, a lot of escorts get a really bad attitude and they get a lot of flack because of it. But I understand both sides, because it is not fun to deal with negatives and then everybody expects you to be the happy-go-lucky, miss fun, miss entertainment, and that's what our job is eventually at the end of the day. So there's pros and cons to being independent and or working for an agency. If someone can find, and I always used to say this to the escorts, and I'm not trying to promote anything here, so hope it's not taken out of context, but I used to tell all my escorts, you found me, you're lucky, because I'm a caring guy, I'm a nice guy, I'm very honest, I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of experience. You're not going to get busted, you're not going to get raped, you're not going to get robbed, you're not going to get pimped out by a girl up pimp, take all your money. None of this stuff is going to happen. It's all upscale. You're going to get a lot of gifts. You're going to be treated really, really nicely and fairly by our clients. I chose professional, upscale, respectful, kind-hearted, uh, very nice clients. So they treated the girls very, very well. Most girls couldn't believe that this existed in this business, especially the new ones. And I actually have helped, and they are still in business today. I can tell you I've helped two very successful escorts go on their own and make a lot of money. In fact, they're millionaires today. Unfortunately, which is a different subject for another video, another day, they have fallen in the trap of doing this for so long that they cannot get out. Hey, hello, Mr. International. How are you? So, and that's another issue for another day. We'll do a video on that someday soon. But which is falling into financial trap, which I'm dealing with every day, to be honest with you, because I went from making, in Orange County, I was netting about 50 a week, 50,000, to go to zero. It's a huge drop, And some of these girls, they feel like they cannot do anything else, or they just get in the habit of doing the same thing over and over again. And some of them get greedy and they don't want to. They feel if they stop, I'm making 2,000, 3,000 a day. If I stop, I'm going to lose all this money that I could be making. So it's a really challenging situation, to be honest with you. And like I said, not everybody can be an independent escort. They have to have the brains. They have to have the desire. They have to be organized. They have to be disciplined, good planning, and to be able to balance their personal life with their business life, because this actually could consume you, especially if you're trying to be very, very upscale and professional and have aspirations to make a whole ton of money. It takes a lot of work. There is no such thing as easy money. In my experience, easy money was the hardest money I ever had to make. And I wish I wouldn't have gone that route, but it is what it is. And here we are today, and it may be the person who I am today. So I regret nothing. I have no regrets at all. So the disadvantages of being an independent escort is that you do not have the protection of someone else knowing what you're doing and where you're at all times. In other words, if I have an escort that goes out on a job, I know exactly where she's at. I'm the one who booked the client. I know exactly how long the duration of the meeting. So I know exactly how long I expect to hear back from her. I know exactly when the client came in, when he left, when he gave her the money and all this stuff. So that's one advantage. You always have someone in a corner waiting, making sure that you are okay. Another advantage of having someone is that they can help you with everything you need to do. In other words, if you need help with, at least this is the way I did it, if you need help with anything that has nothing to do with the job, but everything to do with personal, because I became close friends with most of my escorts, they could call Uncle Freddie and ask him any question they want, and I'm going to tell them the truth and help them, come up with the right decision at the end of the day. So that's another advantage. Also, it's just not safe. It's not a safe business right now, especially it's not legal. It's extremely risky, and God forbid something happens. Who's gonna? Especially if you don't tell anybody, especially your family and stuff. It's the type of thing where people judge you, and a lot of people are not understanding of why you're even doing it to begin with. So if you're one of those, which is the majority of the escorts that I know and I've known, you don't share this with anybody else in your family. So who the hell is going to watch over you, watch out for you when you're on a job? Nobody knows, and God forbid you let the wrong person in and you go ahead and booked the wrong person. That's very, very risky. And we're not just talking about law enforcement. There's a lot of bad people out there that want to do bad things. And a lot of times they choose independent escorts because they figured there's nobody there to help them out or whatever. So there's a lot of predators out there. So that's really another advantage for with working with someone else. Of course, advantage of being independent is you get to keep all your money as long as you can handle the work. Now, there is also the point of traveling. When you go on tour as an escort, it makes a lot more sense and it's a lot easier and a lot more efficient and safer to work with someone. Because now you're outside of your element, you're outside of your home base, and you're 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. If you do international travel, like I've done in the past, now you're like 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 miles away. How are you going to manage, God forbid, if something bad had to happen? If you booked the wrong client or disaster happened, that's unforeseen disaster. That's another advantage from being with the right agency. Now, remember, everything I'm telling you here is only conducive, it only works if you choose the right agent to help you with your business. Like everything else in life, if you have the wrong partner, it just could collapse the whole thing. So finding the right partner, whether it's in business, in life, marriage, whatever, is extremely important. And this is no different. Finding the right escort agent is paramount, because that could actually make you a break. And you guys, the ones that watch my inspirational videos, you know that I'm always preaching about be careful who you let into your circle of trust. And an escort agent is definitely someone that is in a circle of trust that you're letting in. So you have to make sure that you can trust them. Mr. International just asked me a question. He said, did you ever think about going back to Vegas and opening one of those legal brothels? That's a good question. So in the past, there was a brothel called Cherie's Ranch this is in 2004, when I was still in Vegas operating my escort agency. And the gentleman was trying to sell it, but he was asking for too much. He wanted $4 million for basically 2 trailers and a bunch of tumbleweeds in the middle of the desert. The problem is there's no longer new escort licenses brothel licenses being issued in the state of Nevada. So it's all grandfathered in. And this is why the prices has skyrocketed especially in the last few years. So at the time I thought about it, there was also an issue with, at least with my clients, they were really busy, very professional, and they were in town for a day or two just on business, usually connected to a convention that's connected to a business. And they barely had time to even see any of my escorts for an hour at the end of the night or two. And that's the escorts. It was all out calls. So the escorts would go to their hotel room and see them and service them. The closest county that has legalized prostitution in Nevada from Las Vegas, which is Clark County, is Nye County, which is it's 45 minutes away. And this particular ranch was in Pahrump. So Cherie's Ranch was the legal brothel name that was up for sale. And I had a challenge at the time, which is, how am I going to get my really busy client? How am I going to overcome that objection, which is to get him from his strip hotel, casino, resort to the location, which will take 45 minutes, and then another 45 minutes on the way back, plus the time they're going to spend inside the brothel. So we're talking about maybe at least 3 hours in time between travel and, say, an hour and a half in the brothel. And a lot of these guys didn't have the time. And to be honest with you, a lot of them did not feel comfortable or safe getting out of their registered hotel suite or room or whatever. So that was a challenge. And I thought about getting a shuttle, to be honest with you, and have a couple of stripper type girls to give them drinks in the back of the shuttle, like a Mercedes Sprinter or something, the ones you see you can stand up in and have a couple of stripper poles. And that, I guess, would have worked for some people, but it is definitely challenging. Of course, now with Dennis passing away, I think he passed away a couple of years ago, or last year, whatever. The one that used to, I've known him a little bit personally. The one that used to own the Moonlight Benny Ranch up in Reno. The problem with those areas where it's really rural and most of your clients, even though he tried to promote it differently on HBO, the Cat House and all this stuff. Um, the problem is I went for an upscale clients, and they don't find a lot of upscale clients in that area unless they're going out of their way to just go there, and that will not sustain the type of volume that I always went for. So it is definitely a challenge. I just wish they would go ahead and legalize it everywhere, just like they did with marijuana. But that's a whole nother issue, and I'm trying to do my best to at least start the conversation. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I'm doing my best to start a conversation because there's nobody else uh, taking initiative to do just that. A lot of people worry about reputation. I have a lot of people that want to support me from behind the scenes, but nobody wants to put their face forward. And of course, I don't have an ego, and I don't have to worry about reputation because that's been already established all over the internet anyway. So I might as well embrace my position and try to help as many women and escorts as possible that come after us. And I talk to a lot of them, just so you'll know, Mr. International. I talk to a lot of them on a regular basis. One thing I'm doing is doing interviews with them and asking them all these questions and whether they think it should be legalized or not. So I'm doing my share, and I should be publishing a lot of this stuff here pretty soon, doing podcasts and video interviews. So yeah, that's basically my answer about that. And at this point today, I'm not willing to do anything illegal. It's cost me a lot, and I have to be careful, and I have to take care of my 80-year-old mother. So I'm very careful what I do, even with the book that I'm writing right now about my system that I've developed over the 30 years, me being in this business. I have to be extremely careful. I have to put disclaimers in there. And I'm talking to my attorneys and also my brother. Oldest brother is an attorney as well. So I have to be very, very careful in how I word things. And it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I'm trying to help, but then I have these challenges that I have to do it within those parameters because it's not legal in this country. And I don't want them to think that I'm trying to promote the business. So another advantage, going back to the subject at hand, another advantage of being an independent escort, other than making all the money and keeping it, is that you make your own schedule. You only have to answer to yourself. So you can balance your personal schedule, your personal life schedule, whether you have kids or other things that you do, hobbies, school, family, etc., with your business life. So this is also a plus. Not that the girls I worked with didn't have that. They did, because I went around the schedule. And so if they only wanted to work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from this time to this time, that's what we did, as long as it's within the business hours that I established as a whole for the business. In Orange County, most of the girls I worked with that I hired, actually almost all of them, I hired them with no experience. So I never had to worry about, I think I had maybe out of 500 or 600 girls that I worked with, I might have had maybe 5 that questioned the split, which mostly was 50-50. Some of them were 60-40 their way. I was always fair. But like I explained to them, I said, look, man, I have all these places that I have to pay anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a month. Orange County is very, very expensive, and that's for one bedrooms, 600 to 800 square foot each one. And I had expenses. You have supplies, cable, all the utilities, all the stuff that everybody has to pay. Nobody lived in them. It was only for the business, which business hours were 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. So the rest of the time, they were just vacant. And I had, of course, a housekeeper come out on Saturdays, clean all the places. And also there was other expenses, of course, with advertising and the ads and the promotions and all the other stuff that I had to do, and the phones. I mean, everything cost money. And my overhead was about $60,000 a month. So I would explain to these girls, like, you're coming in with zero experience, you have zero investment, and you're going to walk away. And I guarantee them in the ads, when I put the ads out to advertise that I needed help, I would guarantee him $1,000 a day cash for that 8-hour period. And I always like to under promise or over deliver. So I knew that I can bring in, especially a year and a half into this business, once I got established with enough clientele, I knew I could bring at least 2,000. So I wanted to make sure that I reached and surpassed my promise to that person. And for a regular person to make $1,000 cash in their pocket, walk away money with zero money when they walk in, and 7 or 8 hours later they have $1,000 in their pocket. That's a lot of money for a regular person that's used to maybe making that in a month or 2 weeks, whatever. So I didn't really have a lot of objections when I worked in Orange County. And after the first day, usually they were totally on board, because there's always a little trust thing at first, because they don't know who I am. They might have thought that I was just trying to meet girls or whatever. I mean, anything could happen. But after the first day when I met them, they were always very happy and excited, because every client was exactly what I told them they're going to be, and they're going to act exactly the same way that I told them they're going to act. And they got the money. So they actually got the money in their hand. I didn't pay them, they paid me. So in essence, I used to tell them, they used to laugh. I said, you know what? You're my boss. I'm not your boss, because usually the boss is the one who pays the employees. So you're actually my boss, because the money is paid to them and they give me my share at the end of the day. So yeah, like everything else, to summarize the subject matter today, which is independent versus an agency. If you can get together with the right agency at the beginning while you're learning, or if you have just a short-term goal to make, 30, 40, 50, 60 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is, then you can just get in and get out. And that's a smart thing to do if it was me doing it, of course, and the way I did it in the past. Now, if somebody wants to be independent, what I always told them was just learn the business like everything else. Make sure you're comfortable with everything, all the aspects. And I actually sat down with those 2 girls that I told you that I got them I helped them become independent. They used to work for me or with me, and they became really, really successful. But what they had was they were very driven. They had that driver personality, and they were very dedicated people. They were hard workers. They had amazing work ethic. They could work 20 hours a day, which would it take sometimes in this business to be successful. And also, they knew how to manage their personal life and their business life, but they really dedicated most of the time for this business. So to be honest with you, their personal life is non-existent. And now I talk to them and they're really not happy, because they have no one that they can share all this. They have houses and investment properties and cars, and they're both millionaires, and they're still miserable, which I'm trying to help them get out of that frame of mind and hopefully quit once and for all. They're both in their late 40s right now. So that's basically it. I always used to tell them, just make sure it's something you want to do. Make sure it's something that you could handle. Make sure it takes a certain kind of character to be in this business to begin with. It's not for everybody. Make sure you can get in and get out. I preferably used to tell them no more than a year, because you get to a certain point of no return. You get really hooked on that money that even if you wanted to get out, you can't. So any other questions? Nothing? Mr. International, anything else? You got it, my friend. Well, I hope everybody has a good day. Stay positive. I know we're going through this COVID-19 thing and all the shutdowns and everything. So all we can do is just keep going every day, keep thinking about the things we have in life that we're grateful for. Make sure you're healthy, safe, and happy. Health is everything. If we don't have our health, we have nothing. So I thank you guys for joining me. I will see you again, hopefully next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time. And stay healthy and stay safe. And hopefully you found your happiness. Thank you guys, and have a great day. All right, Mr. International, I'll see you later.